What I'm about to share with you is one of the most brutally honest, yet most important things you will ever come to understand about women, attraction, and how the human brain actually works when it comes to desire. Most men spend their entire lives completely unaware of this, blindly chasing the wrong things, trying to look impressive, say the right lines, or project this image of having it all together, but all the while missing the one thing that truly flips the switch of attraction in a woman's mind. If you grasp this, really grasp it, you'll be able to change the way women see you, how they think about you, and most importantly, how they feel about you, without having to be the richest, the best looking, or the most charismatic guy in the room. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is this. Your brain isn't designed to care about what's good for you. It's designed to care about what feels exciting. That's the harsh, frustrating, yet unavoidable truth. Your brain is far more focused on chasing what feels stimulating, intriguing, or unpredictable than it is on chasing what's stable or logical. And this is especially true when it comes to dopamine. Now, most people call dopamine the pleasure chemical, but that's not entirely accurate. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure happening in the present moment. It's about the anticipation of something good happening in the future. It's that feeling your brain gives you when it senses that something exciting, rewarding, or satisfying might happen, even if it hasn't happened yet. And that's the key. Your brain isn't obsessed with the present, it's obsessed with potential, it's obsessed with what could happen next. That little window of uncertainty, that moment of suspense, that nagging curiosity, that's what triggers dopamine. And this is where things start to get interesting when it comes to attraction. Because when you apply this to women, to dating, to relationships, you begin to see exactly why some guys who might not even be the most objectively impressive, can completely hook a woman's attention, keep her thinking about them, and spark that addictive magnetic pull that feels impossible to resist. It all comes down to dopamine, that little spike of mystery, of unpredictability that keeps her brain wondering, what's going on here? What's going to happen next? And once you understand how to create that feeling, everything changes. Picture this for a second. Imagine someone sends you a text. It's flirty, but also vague. It's playful, but not entirely clear. Now, your brain doesn't just casually shrug and think, oh, that was fun. No, instead, it kicks into overdrive. You start wondering, what does this mean? You replay the words in your head over and over, dissecting every little detail, trying to predict the outcome. And before you know it, that one simple, unclear message has taken over your entire day. You can't stop thinking about it. Why? Because your brain has just been served a perfect little dose of uncertainty. And whenever uncertainty shows up, especially the kind that suggests something good might be on the horizon, dopamine kicks in. That little spike of curiosity, that whisper of mystery, that tempting what if, that is exactly what your brain is wired to crave. And guess what? That's exactly what a woman's brain craves too. Every woman on this planet, regardless of her background, her looks, her personality, her brain is designed to light up in the presence of that same uncertainty. Now, let's apply this to attraction. Most men are completely unaware of how powerful this is. They've been conditioned to believe that attraction comes from being impressive, so they focus all their energy on trying to look the part, saying the right things, dressing the right way, projecting stability, predictability, safety. They believe that having it all figured out, being reliable, always being logical and consistent is what makes them desirable to women. But here's where it gets interesting, and honestly, a little surprising for most people. When researchers have studied what actually makes a person linger in someone else's mind, what makes a woman not just notice a man, but become completely hooked on him, even obsessed, sometimes to the point where she can't stop thinking about him. It turns out it has almost nothing to do with being the most impressive option. The men women get addicted to aren't always the best looking, the richest, or the smoothest. What the research shows is far more unexpected and far more powerful once you know how to use it. Quick break. Close your eyes for a second. Picture her, the girl you've always wanted. Feel what it would be like to actually have her. Now open your eyes, because here's the truth. Right now, you're invisible to her. You're getting outcompeted by guys with more money, better looks, higher status, and stronger game. You're playing a rigged game, and you're losing. But I've spent the last 35 years mastering this, studying, testing, and finally finding the secrets to get the girls I always wanted. You want to stop getting ignored? You want her chasing you? Then you need to wake up and act. Click the link in the comments if you are truly committed and take the first step toward becoming that guy. Few spots left. Be fast or miss out your last chance to make her yours. Let's get back to it. What researchers consistently find is that the men who stick in a woman's mind, the ones she can't stop thinking about, the ones she keeps replaying in her head, they aren't perfect. In fact, it has nothing to do with being perfect. It's not even about being the so-called best option on paper. What's actually happening is far more psychological. It all comes down to how much mental activity you're able to trigger in her mind, especially the kind that leaves her curious, intrigued, and most importantly, wondering. Wondering what's going on here, wondering what's going to happen next, wondering why she can't stop thinking about you. This is the foundation of real, lasting attraction. There's even a psychological term for this effect. It's called cognitive salience. Cognitive salience refers to how much something stands out in your mind, how sticky a person, a thought, or an experience becomes. The more mentally sticky you are, the more you stand out. And here's where most guys get it wrong. The things that become salient in someone's mind aren't always the biggest, loudest, or most obvious. They aren't always the flashy, over-the-top displays of dominance or the stereotypical alpha male behaviors. The men who truly stick in a woman's mind are often the ones who almost make sense, but not completely. It's that little hint of unpredictability, the subtle sense that there's more beneath the surface, that not everything about you is immediately clear or easily figured out. That is what grabs her attention and refuses to let go. It's not about being obvious or perfect. It's about being just intriguing enough to occupy space in her thoughts long after you've left the room. Those subtle moments of uncertainty, the things that don't quite fit the pattern, the details that feel just a little unexpected, the behaviors that are just a bit harder to figure out. Those are the things that stick in a woman's mind more than anything else. It's not about being confusing for the sake of it or playing childish games. It's about creating a sense of novelty. And novelty is the real key here. Our brains are wired to zone out when everything feels predictable, but the moment something new, unfamiliar, or intriguing shows up, the brain locks in. It can't help it. The unfamiliar grabs attention, and once attention is hooked, dopamine does the rest. This is the part that most guys go their entire lives without realizing. They waste years trying to impress women by being perfect, by being reliable, by being the safe option, without ever understanding the deeper reality. Women don't fall for men in the way most people think. They don't fall for your looks, your job title, your car, or even your bank account. Not really. What they fall for is the feeling you create inside of them. More specifically, they fall for the men who can make their dopamine levels rise. And again, this isn't about being manipulative or playing games. It's about sparking curiosity, emotion, unpredictability. In short, it's about making her brain light up. And here's what's wild. When that happens, attraction isn't a conscious decision for her. It's not something she chooses logically. It just happens. Her brain responds, her chemistry changes, and suddenly she feels drawn to you, often without even understanding why. That right there, that's the secret most men will never truly grasp. And once you do, you start playing the game on a completely different level. So, when you really boil it down, the key idea here is actually pretty simple, even though most men spend their entire lives missing it. Women don't fall for men in the way society tries to tell you. They don't fall for your job title, your physique, your bank account, or how nice you are. They fall for the feeling you create inside them. More specifically, they fall for the men who can make their dopamine levels rise, the men who spark curiosity, unpredictability, excitement, and that irresistible sense of what's going to happen next. That's the truth most men never want to face. Because the uncomfortable reality is this: if you're not able to make a woman's dopamine levels rise, if you don't know how to behave, carry yourself, or communicate in a way that generates those little spikes of excitement and anticipation in her mind, then it doesn't matter how good of a guy you are, how much money you have, or how hard you try. She's simply never going to feel true attraction toward you. It sounds harsh, but that's the brutal, unavoidable reality of attraction. And here's the part that stings for a lot of men. Attraction has never been fair. It's not designed to be fair. The world itself isn't fair. Why would attraction be any different? Some guys will naturally know how to trigger those dopamine hits without even realizing what they're doing. Others, the majority, will struggle, frustrated, confused, wondering why women seem uninterested or emotionally distant. But once you understand the science behind it, once you understand that attraction is less about logic and more about chemistry, more about creating an emotional state that her brain craves, suddenly you stop playing the game blindly and you start playing it with real power. That's when everything starts to change. And here's where things get really interesting. If you take a good look at the guys who seem to get all the women effortlessly, the ones who barely even try yet, constantly have women chasing after them, you'll notice something important. It's not some mysterious, impossible to crack secret. It's not that they were born with some rare genetic advantage, or that they have millions of dollars, or that they spend hours memorizing pickup lines. In reality, it all comes down to a small handful of things they do, consistently, that trigger the right response in women. And once you understand those things, and more importantly, apply them to your own life, you can start seeing the same results. You can literally replicate what they do and get the same outcome. It really is that straightforward. If you were to observe these guys, study their behavior, their interactions, their energy, and then look inside a woman's mind as she's engaging with them, one thing becomes crystal clear. These men are experts at raising a woman's dopamine levels. They know, sometimes consciously but often instinctively, how to create those little hits of excitement, curiosity, uncertainty, and anticipation that keep a woman hooked. And here's the thing, they do this in all kinds of ways. It's not about having a specific personality type or following a rigid set of rules. Whether they're charismatic, quiet, edgy, playful, or even mysterious, the consistent factor is their ability to create emotional spikes that make a woman's brain light up. That's the real game. And if you pay attention, you'll see this with all the so-called players, the bad boys, the guys who have women drawn to them like a magnet. These men aren't masters of being safe, predictable, or even the most successful on paper. They are masters of dopamine creation. That's their edge. And it's the edge you can learn to develop too. These guys are absolute masters at creating those spikes of dopamine, the same dopamine that quite literally makes women addicted to them. And honestly, it's really that simple. If you've ever wondered how to make women feel that almost uncontrollable pull toward you, to make them think about you when you're not around, to make them crave your attention, the answer isn't buried in some complicated dating strategy or hidden in hours of self-improvement videos. It all comes down to dopamine. See, people love to romanticize things like love, chemistry, attraction. They talk about sparks and butterflies and all these big emotions as if they're some magical, mysterious force. But the truth? All of those things, love, attraction, passion, they're just labels we've created to describe what's happening on a deeper biological level. And that deeper level is simple. Neurochemical reactions inside the brain. That's it. When a woman feels attracted to you, when she feels excited, when she can't stop thinking about you, what's actually happening is a complex dance of chemicals like dopamine being released in her brain. And the more you understand this, the more control you gain over how you show up in her life. Let me give you an example that you've probably experienced yourself. The honeymoon phase, that intoxicating period at the start of a relationship when everything feels exciting, passionate, and effortless. You're constantly thinking about each other, you can't wait to see each other, and even the smallest interactions feel electric. That phase, scientifically speaking, typically lasts anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. But why does it feel so intense? Why does it feel like you're in love on a whole new level? The answer, once again, is dopamine, along with other powerful neurochemicals. During the honeymoon phase, both of your brains are flooded with dopamine and other neurotransmitters that amplify desire, excitement, and emotional attachment. It's not some fairy tale, it's chemistry, plain and simple. And once you understand how dopamine shapes attraction, you start to realize that you can consciously create these feelings. You can trigger that same addictive excitement at will, not just hope it happens by luck. Once you fully grasp this concept, you'll realize that what we commonly refer to as attraction and even love is really nothing more than the brain's chemical reactions playing out over time. It's not some mystical or intangible force, it's a very real, measurable process happening inside our minds. When you examine the men who consistently succeed with women, it's rarely the things you might assume, like physical appearance, wealth, or social status, that make them so magnetic. Instead, their success boils down to one fundamental ability. They know how to trigger dopamine, the brain's anticipation and motivation chemical, more often, more intensely, and more reliably than most men ever do. Dopamine is what creates those thrilling feelings of excitement and curiosity that keep a woman's mind engaged and craving more. The unfortunate truth is that the average man in today's world is almost completely incapable of producing these dopamine spikes in women. Most men simply don't know how to generate the right mix of mystery, novelty, and emotional stimulation that causes dopamine levels to rise. They're often too predictable, too boring, or just not in tune with how to spark that mental chemistry. Because of this, women frequently find themselves endlessly searching for something or someone better. They're drawn toward men who can make their brains light up, who can trigger that addictive dopamine response, and when most men fail to do this, they quickly become forgettable. Understanding that attraction is primarily about the frequency and intensity of dopamine hits, a man can create changes everything. It shifts the focus from superficial traits to a deeper, more dynamic form of interaction. It explains why some men effortlessly captivate women while others struggle despite trying to be themselves or checking all the usual boxes. Once you internalize this, you can begin to change the way you interact, speak, and present yourself to naturally generate those dopamine surges, making attraction almost automatic rather than something you have to chase or force. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If this message spoke to you or gave you something to think about, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. I've got more real talk, more growth, and more power coming your way. So stay locked in. And if you're going through something right now, just remember, your silence can say more than 1,000 words ever could. Take care of yourself, keep rising, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.